Now we will talk about the chemical level of organization. We will go through some basic chemistry and how atoms combine to form matter. For many of you, you may not have had any chemistry for quite some time, but don't worry, we will only be covering the basics of chemistry in this chapter. What is chemistry? Chemistry is the science that deals with the structure of matter. Matter consists of atoms. The different types of atoms and their arrangements define the unique characteristics of matter. Let's look at the atom's anatomy. An atom consists of 3 subatomic particles. It is important to understand the characteristics of an atom because this will determine the chemical properties of the matter. The nucleus of the atom, which is in the center, determines the mass of the atom. The nucleus consists of positively charged protons and neutrally charged neutrons. Electrons orbit the nucleus and circle in an electron cloud. These are negatively charged. The atomic number refers to the number of protons in the atom. Normally, the number of protons and electrons is equal. When they are not, the atom has a charge and is considered to be an ion. If the atom has more protons than electrons, it will have a positive charge. Whereas if the atom has more electrons than protons, it will have a negative charge. A chemical element is a substance that consists of one type of atom. All of the unique elements discovered so far are found on the periodic table. There are 92 elements found in nature, but you do not need to know them all. You only need to know the elements that are essential for human anatomy and physiology. There are 13 principal elements in the body, listed here for you. You need to know these, both their name and symbol, as we will talk about these a lot throughout A&P 1 and 2. There are also trace elements found in the body. You do not need to memorize the 14 trace elements. If you learn the principal elements, you will be able to pick out the principal elements from the trace elements in a question. Atomic mass refers to the total number of protons and neutrons in an atom. Normally, atoms contain the same number of protons as neutrons, but some atoms have isotopes. An isotope is an atom that has the same number of protons but differs in the number of neutrons. For example, hydrogen atoms have 3 isotopes. Hydrogen 1 has 1 proton and 1 electron. Hydrogen 2 has 1 proton, 1 neutron, and 1 electron. And hydrogen 3 has 1 proton, 2 neutrons, and 1 electron. There are 2 classes of isotopes for an atom: stable isotopes and radioisotopes. Stable isotopes have stable nuclei and will not emit any subatomic particles. In radioisotopes, the nucleus of the atom are not stable, so it emits the extra neutrons to get to a stable isotope. Radioisotopes produce radiation when they emit neutrons, and this is what damages cells. Long-term exposure to radioisotopes like radon and radium can cause cancer. Let's talk about how atoms combine to form molecules. This is called chemical bonding. The first type is an ionic bond. Ionic bonds are created by an electrical attraction between positively charged cations and negatively charged anions. Ions are formed when there is an unequal number of electrons and protons in an atom. A cation has more protons than electrons, and an anion has more electrons than protons. Covalent bonds are formed when electrons are shared between 2 or more atoms. Depending on the number of electron pairs shared, you can form single, double, or triple covalent bonds. Covalent bonds are very strong, and usually you need some type of enzyme in the body to break them. This is unlike ionic bonds, which are weaker and can usually be separated by water. The third type of bonding is hydrogen bonding. This occurs between partially charged hydrogen atoms and partially charged negative ions. Water is a good example of basic hydrogen bonding. Water is what we call a polar molecule. This means that while hydrogen and oxygen atoms share electrons to create covalent bonds between them, The oxygen has the electrons more often than the hydrogen ions, making the sharing unequal. This causes the hydrogen atoms to have a partial positive charge and the oxygen atom to have a partial negative charge. Because of these partial charges, the water molecules interact with each other. This interaction between the partial positively charged hydrogen ions and partial negatively charged oxygen ions gives water its many characteristics. Individually, hydrogen bonds are weak, but collectively they are very strong. Hydrogen bonding occurs within or between molecules, allowing them to form complex shapes. For example, hydrogen bonding gives DNA its classic double helix structure. It also helps proteins to fold correctly, which is important for their function. Some important definitions that we need to consider. The term molecule refers to any chemical structure that is held together by covalent bonds. Examples include hydrogen gas, which is H2, two hydrogen atoms held together, oxygen gas, O2, water, H2O, and carbon dioxide, CO2. These examples are relatively small, but we can have larger things in this category as well, such as RNA or DNA, just to name a few. The term compound refers to a chemical structure that is made up of two or more different atoms, but the bonding between them doesn't matter. Some examples include sodium chloride, water, carbon dioxide, DNA, and RNA. While there is some overlap between molecules and compounds, they are not the same.